Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So, Subriel Matias versus Alberto Puello is of course on the New York card that is coming up this week, headlined by Hamza Shiraz versus Edgar Berlanga, but also containing Shakur Stevenson versus William Zepeda. And yeah, Matias versus Alberto Puello. Alberto Puello defending his WBC super lightweight title. Alberto Puello's a fighter in which I've never really rated him all that highly, but he's one of those fighters that gets the job done. He's a workman-like southpaw who can box a bit, can spoil a bit. He's quite physically strong. He's a little awkward. He's a little sort of ragged in his approach, but he's a fighter, like I said, who kind of has got the job done in his career. In fact, he quite surprised me when he beat Gary Antoine Russell. Antoine Russell was supposed to go into that fight and, take the title. Gary Antoine Russell was being hyped. He was supposed to beat Alberto Puello, but Puello got the job done that night. Really kind of stifled Gary Antoine Russell, disrupted his rhythm, and, it resulted in a really disjointed performance from Gary Antoine Russell, and yeah, Puello was able to outbox him. Going into this fight, he's the champion. He's got confidence, coming off a win over Sandor Martin recently. A close fight. Some people felt Martin won, others felt Puello won. I felt Puello probably did just about enough, but I can see the argument for Sandor Martin. Earlier on in his career, though, I did feel he lost to Akhmedov. I felt he got a bit of a gift in that fight. Felt he got outworked by the pressure guy in Akhmedov, but he's proven, I would say, that he can hang at world level, and obviously he holds that WBC super lightweight title. Going into this fight with Matias, he does hold some advantages. He is a bit taller than Matias. He's 5'9.5", whereas Matias is 5'8", though they do have the same reach of 71 inches. Puello is a relatively big super lightweight to my estimation. He looks quite big, quite strong. And, having strength against a fighter like Matias could always be key to neutralise him. Puello is not scared of spoiling. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Puello look for clinches in this fight against Matias to try and stifle him on the inside. It could be ugly. He is known to get ugly. He has gotten ugly in previous fights, and he's got the physicality maybe to do that in this bout. He's also a southpaw, which could give Matias some trouble. In fact, Matias lost to Liam Paro, who of course was a southpaw, in an upset loss. And also when you look at that fight, Liam Paro was doing things in which I feel that Alberto Puello may do in this fight in regards to holding, spoiling, being dirty, using the shoulder, using the head. He was really dirty that night against Subriel Matias, and, that proved costly for Matias. He couldn't really deal with that kind of spoiling, smothering, fouling style of Liam Paro. He really couldn't. Also, a lot of clinching from Liam Paro in that fight. Puello can do all of those things, plus he's got that southpaw advantage as well. His role here is to disrupt the rhythm of Subriel Matias. Whether he can do that or not, we shall see. It depends on how strict the referee is. I do believe the ring in New York is going to be smaller. That's what I've heard. That does favour, you would say, Matias. But I don't think Puello's spoiling tactics, his physical strength, his clinching, etc. should be underestimated. Plus his awkwardness. And one thing I'll say about Alberto Puello, he is quite a good counterpuncher. I actually felt he showed that in moments with Sandor Martin. In fact, that Martin fight is actually quite interesting to go back and watch because Sandor Martin himself has the reputation of being negative, being a bit of a back foot bitch, being a spoiler, doesn't really engage. But in that fight with Puello, Sandor Martin changed his style and became a bit of a pressure fighter, throwing more punches than usual, fighting more on the inside than usual. And, especially early on, he was able to outwork Alberto Puello in that fight. And he was able to do that without having any real power, He couldn't maintain it throughout a fight, but, Puello can be outworked, I think. We also saw that with Akhmedov, who was able to put a bit more of a hurting on Puello. Like I said, I felt Puello was lucky to get the decision that night. I do believe Subriel Matias can replicate a similar game plan. That is his style. At the end of the day, quite high output, very aggressive, a walk you down type of fighter. Sometimes he'll walk you down behind the guard. Sometimes he'll be a little more side on. He'll use that jab to maintain range as he's pressuring. Also uses the jab to quickly close the distance with a barrage of punches. He works body, he works head. We know Matias, punches in bunches, combinations, volume, variation, and he maintains that work rate pretty well throughout a fight because he doesn't really load up on many punches. In fact, when you watch Matias fight, a lot of his shots look like arm punches, but he's got the knack of still generating power on these shots. He's just naturally heavy-handed, so even when he's not loading up, which he doesn't in general, he still takes something out of you. His shots still take something out of you. And when you combine that with the volume, when Subriel Matias is on form, he's a very hard fighter to beat. But as we know with Matias, he's not always switched on, We saw that in the Liam Paro fight. I think if he fought Liam Paro again, he would win. He was off that night. Not only was Liam Paro, in my opinion, fouling, but Matias just wasn't good that night. He was very, very flat. We saw that earlier in his career against Petros Ananyan. That was the fight after he beat Maxim Dadashev, where Dadashev tragically passed away, of course. So he has these moments in fights where he's not on it. He's not firing on all cylinders. And, Puello's not the type of guy to do that against because he's got the knack of stealing rounds, therefore stealing a fight. Very crafty Alberto Puello behind that southpaw stance, but I guess we'll see what happens. I've not thought about this fight in a great deal of detail, I have to be honest, just due to time. Puello, like I said, he surprised me with some of his results in his career, mainly the Gary-Antoine Russell fight. Got a couple good wins on his resume. But I feel like in these fights, particularly with Martin and Akhmedov, he's shown that he's very beatable. And Subriel Matias can fight in a similar manner to which Akhmedov and Martin fought, but in my opinion, to a higher level, and more importantly, he brings more power, he brings more pace, he brings more pain. So if he can replicate their styles with his own attributes, I do think Matias should win this fight. But Matias is 33 years old now. He's got a style that's not going to age well. That has to be said. Having said that, the last couple of fights since his loss to Liam Paro, Subriel Matias has looked pretty good, I would say. And yeah, he goes into this fight with Puello, in my opinion, as the slight favourite. And I'm going to pick Subriel Matias to go the distance and win for the very first time. Of course, all 22 wins of his career have come by stoppage. I think Matias is going to win a close fight here. I think the spoiling tactics of Puello will grant him success. But I think overall he might just get outworked. And maybe even the judging favours the aggression of Subriel Matias in this bout. There's been a lot of talk about runners and things of that nature. Maybe aggressive fighters, who knows, may get a fairer shake now. Maybe not, maybe I'm dreaming, but we shall see. But I'm taking Matias on points, but I'm not confident. Anyway, share your thoughts below. Beanie Guy Del Boy, peace.